Welcome to CS Guitars, the science of loud. I'm joined by Andrew Boehner.
Hello.
Andrew Boehner.
Yeah.
And we've got some differences of opinion on a few things.
Just a few.
Just a few. I mean, we get along okay, but I think there's a few things we still have to, level ourselves on.
You can be friends without agreeing on everything. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's a lovely way to look at life and, social interactions. But the one thing that I find incredibly frustrating is using software and plugins. I think it's massively inconvenient and I don't enjoy doing it.
I feel the opposite way. I have a few amps myself, and 90% of the time, maybe 95% of the time, I just end up using plugins because I think they're easier.
You think they're easier?
I do.
You don't find them frustrating at all?
No. I kind of grew up using...
Hey, Colin, Andrew, are you doing a comparison between the software and the amp?
We're doing a comparison on our opinions, it sounds like.
Our user experiences of physical versus software-based media.
Because from what I can see is this is an orange guitar and this is a black guitar, and if this is going into the amp and this into the software, simply by the means of colors, this isn't fair. This is not a fair comparison.
And we know that the colors matter because, as Glenn has taught us, the pickups and the woods don't matter at all. So at this point, these guitars should sound the same,
True.
but the colors might be the deciding factor.
Yeah, and there's no speakers.
Let's bring Glenn into this conversation. Why is the air conditioner not on?
That's a great question. I would
Maybe you should
love
have
for
that.
it to
I'll work on that. You guys work on making this work.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks so much. What were we saying? Yeah, I don't know. I grew up with digital stuff primarily. I got the Line 6 Pod, whatever, the cheapest one.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I just never really had an interest in amps because A, I couldn't afford them. And B, originally I was blessed with not giving a shit about gear. Unlike now. So I was like, yeah, this sounds good to me and it's good enough, whatever. So I've just been so used to using plugins and software. Like I use Pod Farm forever just because it was what I had and I got very used to it, and things have only, in my opinion, gotten easier since then. So compared to how I started, this stuff is very simple to me. Whereas plugging in it's a 4-cable method, but also you need a speaker cabinet, but you can't have the power on without a speaker plugged in because there's a load and all this extra stuff that I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking about?
There's too much to know with physical gear is what you say.
Yeah.
Sorry to chime in again,
Yes.
but I actually have an opinion that I'm going to throw at you before I leave.
Okay.
Please do.
I think you're fully right about what you're saying, even without having said it. But here's the thing to consider with him. If you play 6 strings, you have a certain kind of headroom.
What is this? Count it.
Wait. But that mofo over there, 7, 8 string, and then down tune them to bass regions, then use a whammy to go even an octave lower, because, and the lower you go, bass amps have 700 watts and shit like this for the headroom. If he plays a normal amp, an actual 50 watt, 100 watt tube amp, he's gonna kill the headroom really, really quickly, and he's only gonna get squish. So that's why the Herberts and the Rectos and stuff have all the... With software, he doesn't have the limitation. So for him, the software is probably a Bob Send.
I'm Bob Send. I like that.
I'm not into the G-Man. So, whereas for us, old fart,
Us dinosaurs.
dad rock guys, that's not an issue. Discuss.
I can agree with that.
To be fair, what he's done there is stolen the conclusion I was going to give to this video. So that was the end right at the start. We should just close this down.
Oh my God.
I had perhaps the opposite experience getting into equipment. I started with a mini Marshall stack.
Oh wow!
Because I wanted to be that rock star of the physical thing. So I was plugging in, I was turning up, and I just like that simplicity. And I do find that putting cables in and wiring up. This part of that is, if you know what you're doing, if you've learned it, it's dead easy. It's dead quick. It's methodical.
Fair enough.
And I do find that the physical, just turn it up, is a lot easier.
The tactile feedback.
The tactile feedback, man.
Course. All these boomer things you read in magazines. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. But whereas I've used, like I said, I had one of those tone farm interfaces, and it was great because I got to experiment with a bunch of sounds when I didn't have the money to buy lots of physical pedals or
Exactly,
amplifiers. I got to try stuff that way. So it's not that I've never used plugins and software, but I always found them difficult to navigate, confusing, and sitting at a computer trying to figure things out always ended up taking more time than just switching on the amp and plugging in the cable, which was demonstrated quite effectively just before we started recording this
how
video.
long were we sitting here waiting?
We had to get like 5 people in here to figure out how to make the software work, and then something wasn't happening. We had to so yeah, it did take a little while to get it set up, whereas the amp just went on, switched on, and we got a sound.
I guess so, but there were a lot of cables involved.
Yeah, and to be fair, Henning's switching system where all the amps go through a switcher and like
this is not normal.
Like
nobody does
this.
It's
This
like you think I'm gonna walk into this room and be like, oh yeah, this makes sense.
I know. I intuitively know what to do.
Looks impressive though.
So yeah, we can completely overcomplicate on both sides.
Exactly.
But what I would like you to do to try and convince me
Okay.
that plugins and software are good is have a go. We've got Blackstar's newest St. James plugin here, which replicates the physical amplifier, which we've got up the back as well. So it's going to be, should be similar sounds. We should have a similar feature set, and we should be able. We've got all the same parameters to work with.
Yeah, exactly.
And I want to see how easy it is for you to operate this.
Okay.
And I'll see how easy it is for me to operate the physical one.
Sounds good to me. I think the stock tone is already like not bad. It's a little different than what I would go for though, so I'm gonna play with it.
It's got plenty of chug. I mean,
Yeah.
It's one of those things you turn up the gain, right?
First you turn down the bass for sure.
You got lots of low end.
Up the treble. I usually do it by eye. Like I just assume that it's going to sound good this way.
Oh yeah, you're just you're painting by numbers.
Yeah, I'm like, this is how I do it on almost every amp, so I feel like it's usually a safe. This is not a meme. I actually do this.
Put the gate all the
So
way
I
up.
do. This is gonna look really funny, but I do this until I stop hearing it, and that's where I leave the noise gate.
Oh, that's a really clever way to set up.
Because I don't want the string noise, right? And I want it to be like stupidly tight, because I am not that tight of a player. And then we got pre-effects, so I don't usually use a compressor, but I usually use some kind of drive. So I just go like gain nothing, level max, tone max.
This is where you do have the advantage over me, because at present we do not have any pedals
There you
set
go.
up here. So you've got them all.
You got to
built into
buy
the software.
one and get the cable and the
Exactly.
power supply.
Whereas these come with the St. James software.
Exactly. This one's actually a lot more extreme than I was expecting. Probably don't need the level. That's fine. Still pretty like intense though. I'm surprised at how much that changed. Usually that's just like the stock like tube screamer is just max.
Yeah,
Nothing.
you just max it.
Okay, that's better. So back to the amp. I'm like almost pretty happy with that. What do we got going on?
Cabinets.
So this is the area where I always get stuck because like I'm used to digital versions of cabs. I only have a couple and I've only mic'd a cab once in my life.
Oh.
So for like mics and stuff, I'm always kind of like, I usually just leave it at default because I don't really know what I'm looking for here. All I know is I like stuff that has vintage 30s because metal, but I don't know if that's going to be a thing here because this is Blackstar's cabs, which makes sense.
But you still got plenty of 412 options to choose from, which is,
Yeah.
I assume, what you would go for.
No.
No.
I would probably go 212.
You want like a more focused mid-range?
Yeah, and like again, I don't want low end because I'm
You're
tuning
so low
lower.
anyway, yeah.
And honestly, sometimes I'll just mute the second one entirely, just at least to hear like what this sounds like. It sounds a little too small. Also, it's panned, which I don't want if I'm only using one. That's fine, whatever. Maybe I do like the 412. Nope, not that one. Okay, I lied. I do like the 412 more in this case. Room noise definitely at 0 because I don't
Yeah.
want any kind of like reverb or whatever. Post effects, don't need any of that. EQ, don't need any of that. Cool. So in theory, I guess this is probably what I would do. Yeah. We're a little out of tune.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, really out of tune. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that.
That sounds sick.
And then like if I wanted to get fancy, then I would like unmute this cab and maybe play around with something else. What am I doing here? Oh, I see. So like I don't know, maybe like blend it with where was that?
Your 212
Oh yeah,
back
because
in
it's
again.
vertical. It's very
Yeah.
confusing. I'm always looking for it because it's
a horizontal
it's-
212, yeah.
yeah, it trips me out. Maybe like a little bit of that, then I guess we would pan this again, like there or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably where I would leave it for now. I think I'm pretty happy with that for like a real quick something.
Yeah,
some kind of
something.
yeah.
Certainly with the, especially on the cab end of that, that's a lot quicker
Yeah,
than rolling in different cabinets.
Especially
and
for people that
microphones,
don't know what they're doing.
which is, I mean, I've got to admit, I use IRs a hell of
Okay.
a lot. Even though I've got the physical amplifier,
Yeah.
it'll be running through like the direct, the attenuator, and it will run direct. And
So
then
pretty much
IR
what's
on
going
top.
on here,
So,
right?
so
Yeah.
the back end of that process for me in my studio would be fairly similar, selecting.
Mm-hmm.
But I do also make cabinets, and I would do it in this room, but I don't know where the mics are. So you've got an advantage over me here, or do I have an advantage over you because I'm just getting whatever is running through.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, well, in this room it's a little different because obviously it's already running through the aux box or whatever.
It's wired through everything
Yeah,
already.
so I don't. Even if there was a cab here, I don't think you would even be able to.
No.
But I guess like, would it be easier for you at your studio though, like because you have like a process in place, or would it still be a pain because like if you mic up a cab and you're like, I don't like this one, then you have to like unmic it, unplug everything, move the cab, put the head back on, right? I would imagine.
I've got a couple of cabs that I use and microphones there. So it is this case of really moving the microphones to where I want them. I know I've already figured
Yeah.
out, spent that time figuring out, going through that process where works
Right.
for the tones that I want to get. So it's a quick enough process, but it does allow me the flexibility to place the microphones in positions that you can't get through
Of course,
an IR.
yeah.
Like as you're going through here, it's like, oh, what do I want? I can physically move that microphone.
Yeah.
I can do fun techniques like miking the back of the cab, which you don't always see in IR
yeah,
packs.
sometimes, but
Yeah,
it's a little
so-
more rare.
And you can throw in room mics and all the rest of that. So it does offer more flexibility to do it physically, and it's fun for experimentation, which I feel in some ways the software restricts.
Yeah, but my counter argument to that is always like, at that point, who is going to notice other than you? And that's not like, I don't mean that in a negative way necessarily, but it's fun for you, I'm sure, and for maybe like a few people who might notice like that little extra attention to detail rather. But I think that most people probably wouldn't notice.
Oh yeah, people. If it was purely to get a sound on record,
Yeah.
it's. But if it's not really, doesn't really matter. But if you love the process, and more of it, in my case, it's more about the creation aspect of it.
Yeah, and I mean that's like a big differentiating factor for sure. Is for me, I'm always like, I loosely know what kind of tones I like and how do I get to approximately that as fast as possible because I want to record the thing. And the other reason I really like stuff like this or whatever is because like the other problem that I have with physical amps or reamping even is like if you record that and then a week from now I decide I don't like that tone anymore, then you have to do the whole process again. Whereas on here, I'm like, oh, like I added a little too much gain. Probably don't need that. Then it's just like, oh, I
you just pull down,
like, less gain, and then
you're done.
Tone is finished, right?
So that is certainly quicker than doing a whole reamp or a whole new amplification setup.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's probably about what I have to say. I would love to see your process now.
Well, I'm hooked up through the physical amp sitting behind us. Now I'll have to move over there and start twiddling some knobs. So I'm going to find out what I'm
See, step one already harder. He has to physically move.
And that was just us plug it in, switch it on. Already it's kind of there.
Yeah.
So let me find out what I can do here. Hopefully I don't get in the way of the amplifier while doing this.
I'll guide you.
Yep. Let me just prop myself against the wall here. Firstly, I need probably more gain, right?
Oh, maybe not.
And because I'm standing. Feedback. We could probably use a little less bass. Or more. We're doing here. No, prefer to think way. Back down the treble, but I'm almost happy with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's very little needed done. And at that point, it's just a case of getting the levels that's needed. I could also probably use that nice
noise gate.
That noise gate.
Yeah. That sounds great.
Yeah, and obviously part of the process was taken away from me because it's already wired through, but it turned a knob and it's done. And I just love that reactive nature to it, getting to touch something. I don't know what that says about me, but getting to touch a thing really helps. Really helps me out.
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, obviously that was really fast. Yeah, but then it's like, would you do this first and then add pedals or something like that?
Yeah, if I would set the sound up, if I couldn't get to where I wanted to, then add some pedals.
So you add pedals if you feel like you need them. You don't like have them ready to go.
Yeah,
first and foremost. Okay.
I know the pedals that you use most often because there's certain ones that are just more useful.
Yeah,
a Tube Screamer, for example, is one of the ones that gets used a lot. And I could certainly, if I wanted a tighter thing, there's certainly something down here on the low strings where I'm like, yeah, if I just back the gain on the amplifier down, put a Tube Screamer in that, and just cranked it up, that would tighten that up and give that mid push.
Yeah.
So if I had one, yeah, I could launch it into the system, and I've got the cable. In my setup, I've got cables ready to go, just to plug in and do that. But
that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what the conclusion to this is. It's like two different ways to do.
We do have very different preferences in the way that we work and for the type of music that we make.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, like Henning was saying, like the stuff that I play is quite a bit different than what you play, and that definitely plays a part into it. I would think at least, because like I don't really care about headroom or low end or anything like that because I'm like making a tone for the purpose of it being in a demo track or something like that usually, or for being recorded, not for like playing in a room.
Yeah, it's a full music context or a band context for you. Whereas I might be a little bit more self-indulgent.
That's fine too, but I mean, to be fair, like I have people comment, I mean, people are going to comment regardless, but I have people comment that say like the tone sounds way better in the mix, but then I use the exact same tone when it's me just like playing, and they're like, why does it sound so weird or whatever? And I'm like, well, that's because there's like 30 other things happening in the song, which is why I made the tone that way. So then when it's by itself, like, yeah, it's not maybe going to sound as full or whatever, but to me that makes sense. But I can see how like to the average person, they're like, well, but why would you want to jam with something that doesn't sound like have this full
once you start thinking from the concept of this is going to be part of a greater ensemble and it's going to fit in a mix or fit live, or you start to dial in your tone very, very differently.
Exactly.
And once you've attuned your ears to that, like a guitar that's really bassy doesn't sound good to you any longer.
I say ironically as I play like as low as possible, but you know, it's just a different way to do it. And Also, I think it has a lot to do with just like how you grew up. Like, again, I'm just used to stuff like this because I went from, I think I kind of lied. Like, I guess I did technically have like the Line 6 Spider 2 or whatever, as everyone did. So that, and then I had the Marshall, like Zach Wild, like micro stack. So it was like a 15-watt head that
that's,
it like
that's,
looked.
Yeah, that's what I had as well.
Oh, that's
like,
so funny.
Not the Zach Wild, but the normal version of that. So yeah, we probably do have a lot more similarity.
Yeah, but then I got the pod, which was like $90, and I was like, well, now I have technically every amp and pedal and whatever. So I was like, why would I not just use that?
That was the point of our divergence.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas you're like, this is sick, and I was like, this is very annoying. But also that was probably around the time when I started recording. So like I don't know. I've just always been doing something from a recording first perspective, not necessarily jamming, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I've got that deep fascination with vintage gear and kind of messing around in the studio and finding cool tones, and which maybe you don't do so much of.
No, not quite.
You've got, you know what you want to get, and you go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always more interested in what new stuff is coming out. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like it's pretty obvious by looking at me and what I play. Like, I obviously don't really care about vintage gear. I think it's cool to look at and like the history and all that. But like, yeah, if you gave me like a original gold top Les Paul, I'd be like, wow, this looks beautiful. But like, what am I supposed to do with this?
When am I ever going to play?
Or I'm afraid to touch it because it's probably like $30,000. So yeah.
Do you think money's a deciding factor here? Because with the software, the big argument I've heard against Valve amplifiers recently is that they're expensive and they're sort of the pursuit of the privileged. If the fact that you can afford that kind of gear makes you privileged, whereas you can get a lot of software that's perhaps much more better value for money and lets people get in there at an earlier age or with different financial situations.
I think so, because he has something to say before I do.
You're still at it.
Yes, come on.
I thought I gave you the answer about half an hour ago.
Oh, you did. We're just trying to make give the context to your answer.
Hit that 8-minute watch time.
Yeah, we need to get the big ads.
We were pretty much at freaking young kids with their boom, boom, boom low shit. We're right. He's just inexperienced and wants to play bass. Okay? I thought we had the answer. And the fact that Blackstar can actually give you whatever we would want or whatever he needs. Blackstar is the answer to all of our guitar problems.
Also true. Which is what we were trying
Ollie,
to get
can
to.
I come in there now and get my money? Let me collect some money.
Yeah, go and collect your money. I think we probably finish it out on that.
Probably, yeah.
He's made a very good point. No matter what you want to do, whether it's software convenience or hardware convenience.
As they're laughing in the background, they're like, yes, we got him.
We got them. Yeah, Blackstar are giving us something that anyone's preference will be happy with. And the sounds we're getting here, I think, would be completely usable in either of our contexts.
For sure. And to be fair, real quick to add, we didn't even talk about this, but something I really do like about this physical amp in particular is that it has a bunch of digital features, which are things that for people like me, like it takes me a lot to be convinced to try an amp. Like I have an actual 5150 and I never use it. I use a $90 plugin of a 5150 because it's way easier.
Way easier for you.
But for amps like this, where you can actually plug it in with like USB or XLR out or whatever, then it skips like that whole process of like miking a cab and doing this, or having like 20 cables. Like anything to reduce the amount of time and effort to get the thing I want is great. So
absolutely.
yeah,
I'd completely forgotten that the cab rig stuff is included in this amp. So you can plug an XLR in and you've got all of that cabinet simulation back end that you can program in and tweak out as much as you like. So it's you get the physical amplifier with a lot of the convenience of the software.
Exactly. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. Because I mean, like obviously this is a lot cheaper still, but it's nice that amps are moving more in the direction. Well, some amps are moving it more in the direction of trying to service both fan bases, I guess you could say. I'm not sure what the proper term would be. Yeah, but yeah.
Well,
just thought I'd put that out there.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. It is a great thing that Blackstar has done. I think we close it out there.
Sounds
thank you very much for joining me on this one. It's been great to hear those low down chuggies.
Anytime.
Keep it loud, guys. Take care. Your channel's just Andrew Boehner, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's fucking easy.
I'm really smart, very creative.
Just made it my name.
Yeah.